Hi everyone! So in celebration of our November Rise from the Ashes box, I'm going to be talking about some books that have characters that kind of overcome some difficult circumstances. There are a lot of books to choose from that feature characters like these, but I have picked 5 to recommend to you. So the first book I want to recommend is one I don't have a physical copy of yet, but that is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. Now this is one of the books I gave 5 stars to this year, and it is just an amazing new fantasy story. So this book features a woman named Nari, and she works as a con person, kind of doing tricks and almost sleight of hand and seeming magic in the streets of Cairo in the 18th century. That is until one day she accidentally summons a djinn to her side, and this djinn tells her about this mythical city called Davayabad, and she ends up journeying to this city and getting involved in all sorts of court politics and learning that there's much more magic to the world than she initially thought. It's an absolutely stunning story. The sequel, City of Copper, just came out and I cannot wait to get to it. Next up is a trilogy that I have recently finished, and that is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. The first book is the Assassins Apprentice, and this book totally sucked me in. So our main character in this series is a young boy named Fitz, and he is the royal bastard, and he has been kind of cast out from society. He works in the stable, and he also has this kind of magic called wit that allows him to communicate with animals. But in this world, wit is very much frowned upon, and he is not allowed to use this. He is eventually accepted into the royal household, where he starts training as an assassin's apprentice. It is such a cool fantasy setting. It's definitely a classic in the fantasy book world, and if you've been putting it off, I definitely recommend jumping in because it's an easy read and Fitz as a character is fascinating. So next up I have Blood and Sand by C.V. Wick. I think this is such an underrated book, which is why I like to talk about it quite often on this channel. So in this story we follow a girl named Bhatia, and she was actually raised to become the next queen of an empire called Thrace. However, when she's young, this empire is completely destroyed and she ends up being sold into slavery. Near the beginning of this novel, she's actually gifted to a Spartan warrior named Xanthus, and the story takes off from there. It is again one of the more surprising reads because it had such a potential to go in a very negative and like problematic way, but it really didn't. Bhatia is such an amazing character, and Xanthus as well, who again, there was such possibility for his character to be terrible, being gifted this slave, but he is really just sweet and kind and a real human being, which you don't often see. I adored this story. There will be a sequel at some point and I cannot wait. Next up I have an OwlCrate pick, and that is the Sandcastle Empire by Kayla Olson. Now this is actually a dystopian story that has definitely like climate change vibes. So this book follows a girl named Eden, and she was raised in like a normal world that had like air conditioning and ice cream and, you know, all the luxuries that we have now. But unfortunately that has kind of taken a turn for the worse, and now these things don't really exist, and she's living in this very violent world that's ruled by a group of people called the Wolf Pack. She is very much alone in this world, but she has been raised to think that there is this island somewhere off the coast called Sanctuary Island where the Wolf Pack doesn't reign anymore. At the beginning of the book she bands up with a few other people who are also resistant to this Wolf Pack group, and they go on their search for Sanctuary Island, and surprisingly enough, they actually find it. But as soon as they arrive, one of Eden's new friends disappears and they have to go in search of her. It is a super fast-paced, kind of like Indiana Jones vibes, but also Lost. This island is almost like a character of itself. Really enjoyed this book. It's a standalone, you can fly through it. And finally, I have Gunslinger Girl by Lindsay. This is another book that I think is underrated and more people should read, and it follows a girl named Serendipity Jones, and in this book it is the second civil war in the United States, and she is kind of being raised on this work commune. At the beginning of the novel, her and her friend escape this commune and go in search of a city called Cessation, which is kind of this Wild West lawless city where you can kind of do whatever you please. Once she gets to Cessation, she is taken into this theater group called Theater Vespertine as a sharpshooter, but there is kind of a twist to this theater. It's almost carnival-like, but they have a thing called the finale, in which it's a performance, but somebody is also publicly executed. It's gritty, it's cool, it's fun, the characters are phenomenal, and Serendipity herself is just an amazing character that I cannot get enough of. Alright, so those are 5 characters that I absolutely love that kind of overcome their terrible circumstances. If you have any books that feature characters like these that you would recommend, let me know in the comments down below. It's a trope I adore. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Happy reading, and thanks for being awesome. Bye!